You're listening to a special edition of We Get Work, recorded live from Workplace Horizons 2025 in New York City, Jackson Lewis's annual labor and employment law conference. Over 500 representatives from 260 companies gathered together to share valuable insights and best practices on workplace law issues impacting their business today. Here's your personal invitation to get the insights from the conference delivered directly to you. We'll see you in 2026. Well, welcome to Live from Workplace Horizons 2025 here at the Hilton Midtown and the We Get Work podcast series. Thank you, Mike and Stephanie, for joining us. I'm going to ask you a very simple question first. Just tell us a little bit about who you are and your practice. Stephanie, Pete, I know you are a principal in the Philadelphia office of Jackson Lewis. Tell us a little bit about your practice and what's happening these days.
Sure. Hi, Alicia. So again, Stephanie Pete, Philadelphia. I manage the office. I am co-leader of the healthcare industry group. A lot of my time is spent in the healthcare industry space, running the gamut, litigation, advice and counsel, dealing with all of those issues that healthcare clients deal with on a daily basis that perhaps are nuanced to the healthcare space. A lot of my time is spent dealing with the religious accommodation cases that we are still dealing with from the COVID pandemic. So we are busy.
You're busy. And Mike Bertoncini from the Boston office. Can you share a little bit about your practice?
Sure, happy to do that. So I'm a member of the core team for both the healthcare industry group and the higher ed industry group, splitting my time about 50-50 between those two industries. And on the healthcare side, really focusing right now mainly on the evolving situation with respect to labor organizing with residents and interns, and believe it or not, physicians.
Yeah. So this morning, you facilitated, not surprisingly, the Healthcare Roundtable. Stephanie, what were the issues that really came up during the conversation? What did people really want to hear about and talk about with you and Mike this morning?
I think the biggest issue, Alicia, for the healthcare clients, and that came up in the roundtable this morning, was the executive orders on the DEI. It obviously impacts all clients in various industries, but healthcare in particular. So we talked about how it's impacting and what to do on a go-forward basis. We talked about inventorying all of the policies, the procedures, the communications, everything where the DEI could be discussed, may be discussed, could be perceived to be discussed, and then what to do as a result. We talked about the privileged assessment that needs to be done to determine risk tolerance, how clients want to change their DEI focus and their initiatives and their programs, and how that impacts the health equity that a lot of these hospitals and healthcare facilities are committed to, where they are willing to take the risks, where they are not willing to take the risks, and the assessment that goes into the play. So a lot of the discussion, Alicia, was really focused on DEI and what that's going to look like going forward.
So that makes total sense. But Mike, I'm going to ask you, were there other issues that came up in the course of the conversation that healthcare employers are facing that they also wanted some insight on?
Yeah, and that was mainly on the labor front. And I think an interesting intersection between the fallout from the executive orders that Stephanie talked about, where everyone's addressing what are longstanding DEI initiatives in the healthcare setting. You could argue really that healthcare was out in front on DEI before the rest of the industries got into it. And we know that when you make changes in your DEI approach, there's going to be some population of employees who are going to celebrate those, and another population that's not going to like them. And for that population that doesn't like the changes, an easy thing to turn to as a perceived fix is labor organizing. And there's a lot of concern that unions will step in to fill that space. And you combine that with other issues we're seeing, some around staffing shortages, and that movement among the residents and interns, and again with some intersection there, because when you look at the executive orders and their impact on higher education, for those healthcare institutions that have residents and interns, the ACGME is going to be under the same sorts of pressures as colleges and universities. So it could be that this inventorying that Stephanie's talking about, we could get pretty far down the road as healthcare institutions and then see the ACGME make changes, and we have to revisit all the work that we have already done. So that I think was really interesting, and I think a recognition among the people we had in attendance was a really thoughtful group about we need to change our approach to employee engagement and focusing on sort of a holistic, how do we make the workplace culturally comfortable, productive, and get employee engagement up?
Yeah. So Stephanie, this might seem like a silly question given what we've been discussing about how much change has happened since January, but we do like to do a check-in every year to see what some of the significant changes have been, because the law is always evolving, whether or not there's been a change in the administration. So were there other significant changes for healthcare employers over the past year?
Yeah, in addition to the ones we just discussed, I think probably the biggest one is restrictive covenants specific to the healthcare industry. The FTC ban is all but dead. So what we are going to see is restrictive covenant regulations on a statewide basis. About 12 or 13 states at this point have come forward and specific to healthcare. The trend seems to be people do not want to limit the ability for healthcare providers, physicians and otherwise, to choose where they work. There's that public policy consideration that exists in the healthcare space that doesn't exist elsewhere. So I think a lot of the healthcare employers that are multi-state have to really pay attention to the different states and the different regulations in the different states if they want to, one, enforce non-competes, and two, if they are recruiting, bringing in healthcare providers, if they have non-competes, whether or not they are enforceable and how they want to treat them going forward.
Yeah. So restrictive covenants, labor issues, big changes from the administration. Mike, what would you say for the folks who weren't able to participate in our discussion this morning but are listening to this podcast? What are some key takeaways that you might want to share?
So I think one common theme that goes through all the topics that we've already identified, and burnout, staffing concerns, we think one of the best ways to combat or address that is improved employee engagement. And we now have robust data that shows you the better your engagement, the better your patient care scores. So there's a financial impetus as well as a mission-driven impetus. And we spent a fair amount of time in the roundtable talking about, one, the importance of strong engagement, and two, how do you weave that into the fabric of the institution's culture in hopes that that'll stabilize your staffing situation, increase retention. You don't have to worry about the physician non-competes if they're happy working there. And also bringing some sense of stability in an industry that's still facing a lot of consolidation. And with that comes uncertainty from an employee perspective.
So uncertainty. Stephanie, I'm going to ask, how is Jackson Lewis helping healthcare employers in particular deal with uncertainty, deal with all the legal issues?
We know the nuanced issues that healthcare employers deal with on a daily basis. So we are in a position where we can be proactive in that advice. So really help, for example, in the DEI space, really help our clients understand where they need to be looking for the policies and procedures and the documents to make those risk assessments. It's not just in your handbook. It's not just what's on your website. It's really doing a deep dive to understand where DEI could be. So we're in a really great space to help our clients do that, and then to help them with that privileged assessment to identify the risk and come up with a plan going forward. Helping with the advice and counsel on the staffing shortages, on the burnout, on OSHA, workplace violence has really increased, unfortunately, in the healthcare space. And we have a team of lawyers that are dedicated to working in that regard. We have experts like Mike that are helping on the labor space. Litigation generally has increased. We're still seeing increased requests for religious accommodations for healthcare clients. So really, we have a great team of experts lined up to help with all of the issues that healthcare providers are dealing with on a daily basis.
Amazing. Stephanie, Mike, thank you so much for sharing some of the insights that you gained and discussed during the Healthcare Roundtable this morning. And hope you enjoyed the conference, and we'll see you for Workplace Horizons 2026.
It's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Jackson Lewis's podcast, We Get Work. Focused solely on workplace issues, it is our job to help employers develop proactive strategies, strong policies, and business-oriented solutions to cultivate a workforce that is engaged and stable. Please tune into our next program, where we will continue to tell you not only what's legal, but what is effective. We Get Work is available to stream and subscribe on your streaming platform of choice, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. For more information on today's topic, our presenters, and other Jackson Lewis resources, visit jacksonlewis.com. As a reminder, this material is provided for informational purposes only. It is not intended to constitute legal advice, nor does it create a client-lawyer relationship between Jackson Lewis and any recipient.